Hello, everyone. Welcome to On the Move, a show where we share transportation, sales, and marketing success stories. I'm Jennifer Carpus Romaine, the Executive Director at the Transportation Marketing and Sales Association, TMSA, which is a trade nonprofit educating and connecting marketing and sales professionals in transportation and logistics. And today on the show, we have Celine Clayton, who is the VP of Marketing at Greenscreens.ai. Welcome to the show, Celine. How you doing?
Amazing. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here today.
We are so excited to have you. And just for people who might not know you or might not know about your journey here in logistics, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your experience in the industry?
Of course, I'm happy to. So, head of marketing at Greenscreens, as Jennifer gave me the introduction just there. I've been with the organization for a little over 2 years now, which is absolutely crazy. Time has just completely flown by, but it's been exciting to be a part of the journey in the last 2 years and seeing where I started at Greenscreens and where we've come in the brand and the customer growth and all the things. So it's been super, super exciting. But previously before Greenscreens, I was in the supply chain logistics technology space, where we focus more on the last mile delivery aspect of the supply chain. But really, there I got to get my foot in the door of the industry as a whole, while also in that startup space. And ultimately gained a lot of experience in that role to then lead me to joining the Greenscreens team. So that's kind of my quick overview of my time in the space.
Awesome. And one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on the show is because you were recently promoted from marketing director to VP of marketing. So, first off, congratulations on your promotion. And I love it because it's really great to see people rising through the ranks at a company. So, any advice to people that are looking to advocate for themselves or to the companies that are looking to encourage people to grow within? How, I would love to talk to you about, suggestions for career advancement.
Yeah, I love that question. I would say, I can't sit here and say like, oh, obviously self advocacy is so important, but it is something I'm still struggling with. So I can't really speak to that extent, but I can speak to the extent of, companies looking to promote within and what to look for. I'm truly so grateful that Greenscreen saw, the potential for me to grow. And not only that, but trusting me with the brand. It's been a true honor that they saw the potential in me and were, obviously ultimately trusting me to do so. But I would say definitely look for those people, that are willing to jump in and problem solve. I think truly, just in general, growth comes from stepping into uncomfortable situations. And so if you're looking to, advance in your career, maybe it's, taking on that challenge or that project and, it's not so much having the answers, but having the ability to go in and the willingness to go and learn how to do it. I think that speaks volumes.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I think that's kind of my advice there. But
Absolutely. I think one of the key things you said there too is that you're so thankful for Green Screens trusting you
mhm.
to do it, to advance the brand and to try new things. And I think that's incredibly important when we're talking about this, because I think a lot of times we don't give people the authority or the ability to actually take ownership of a project or of something that we want to do. And so we may be fearful as leaders to, let people try something new because we want to adhere to our brand standards or anything like that. But having that ability to take ownership, being able to share your ideas and to run and to learn, I think greatly affects our employees. And it sounds like that's something that really helped you to continue to grow.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think that's something within our leadership as a whole. I think, our CEO, Dawn, is absolutely incredible, but she has built out this team and put, the people in the positions who she trusts to do the job. And, I think she's amazing in every aspect of our organization. And I think she can do an amazing job, but she's allowing us to have the autonomy to do that. Um, and I think that is just so important in a leader to enable your team to, try something, fail, and maybe you have the idea, and like as leader, you were in that position at one point, and you also learned, but you had to learn from failing sometimes. So I think, sometimes that is the ultimate, outcome. But I think that's just key in leadership for sure.
Yeah, and not everything is going to work perfectly the first go, especially in marketing, because it's all about, okay, what's going to work, what's not going to work. Oh, can we tweak this a little bit to make it work more? Or is the idea itself bad? Which, that takes time to really figure out what that looks like. So
Mhm.
I'm curious, kind of over your past few years at Greenscreens, what was the most kind of surprising thing that you did that you learned from? And how did your team support you to move forward with a different idea or a different approach?
Yeah, I think like I don't have a key moment that's standing out, but a lot of really small ones, I think. In the last 2 years, obviously, event marketing has been a really big play for us. And I know we'll get more into that later. But I think too, it's just like, for my first year at Greenscreens, I was a one woman show. So like having to create processes, but it's only me following them felt a little silly. But really learning how to, write out my processes and then continuing to refine them every single time. So, when I first started, we weren't necessarily doing like pre and post show debriefs, but that's something we realized, okay, we need to do that. Even if it's a 5-minute sync with everyone at the show, like, what did you see? What did you learn? What didn't work? What did work? Like, what was surprising that people actually cared about? There was in Vegas last year at Manifest, we did the football jerseys for the Super Bowl because it was in Vegas, and it was super fun. And our sales director Sharm went out and bought those sweat headbands and the sweat wrist things, and he bought some green ones, and he bought quite a few for the team. And so we had them just laying on the table with the rest of the swag. And surprisingly enough, people were coming up to our booth asking if they could have the sweatbands, which wasn't even a intentional thing, but it's just like, okay, that's something to note. Like, people wanted sweatbands for their head. I don't know, maybe for their kids, but yeah, just like the more you learn and the more you kind of get the insights, especially marketing, we're not at every show, so we need to really understand the event from the viewpoint of sales. So yeah.
Absolutely. I think that is key as a marketer. You need to, and I do think it's important to at least go to some of the shows so you can hear how your sales team is interacting with your prospects, with your customers, hear the languages that they're using, the verbiage that they're using so that you can attach it. And yeah, in terms of swag, what's resonating, what's not. I do think I stand firm as a mom that if you have swag that I both can use and that I can bring home to my kid, that's really key.
Mhm.
Because my son always wants swag. He always wants gifts from shows. And so it's so much easier when I can accomplish that. And then I go like pick up one Hot Wheels from the airport or from Target or somewhere like that. But
Yeah.
he has so many like branded trucks. He loves stress balls, loves the mint packs that people have. Always
Oh,
grab
yeah.
those. Things like that are really great. He would love a sweatband for sure. That is something that he
Yeah.
wears for fun.
We have to keep that one top of mind then.
Mhm. And we are kind of rounding out trade show season in the next few
Mhm.
weeks. And so I do want to touch on that because Greenscreens is definitely one of those companies that works to stand out at the trade shows. And I know we've talked about this in person at the shows,
Mhm.
like from your matching custom Hawaiian shirts. I remember, I think it was Manifest. You guys had the huge like light up display. And I think you were like, I didn't even think it was that big. And then it delivered.
Yeah. We definitely thought it was a tabletop neon sign,
But
but
it was like
yeah.
not, it was a full sign, but it made it better
Mhm.
because it was so stand out. But what kind of brainstorming sessions go into your trade show booth and your trade show strategy? Who participates in that? And how do you get people on board to kind of maybe step outside the box of a normal
Yeah.
booth?
Yeah. So I think this is definitely a twofold question, but first off, I think the reality is we actually don't set like traditional, like, okay, we're going to brainstorm this hour. A lot of the ideas we've had have just like spun off of an idea or honestly a joke. And our weekly marketing meeting is Friday morning. So I feel like there's that bit of, okay, weekend energy is coming. We're all in a good mood. But often we go on side notes, tangents, we get off topic, and somehow we end up with some crazy idea. And there's been a lot of ideas we haven't executed on, but a lot of the ones you see probably started as more of an idea of a joke. And I think too, we listen to everyone on our team. We have an amazing team, and I think that goes back to the culture that our leadership team has established and putting the right people in the right seats who are willing to do this. I think. Because that's half of the battle, right? Like marketing can go and we can have these crazy ideas, we can get it all printed and ready and ready to wear, but they have to be willing to actually go and do that. So we don't force people, hey, you must wear this Hawaiian. I'd like to say that they're willing and happy to do it, at least for a few hours, but it's been fun. I think the Hawaiians, we started it off at my first TIA Capital Ideas 2 years ago, and it was in Orlando, Florida. So I think we were just trying to go with the Hawaiian, tropical theme. We're in Florida, so we had the green leis, we had the Hawaiian shirts, and then I think the fall season, we had a few of our sales directors, they all wore matching Hawaiians to the McLeod user conference. And then the next day they didn't wear them. And then they were being asked where are the Hawaiians. So that's when we realized, okay, there could be something here. And then it quickly evolved into the custom Hawaiian print, which you now see all over our swag.
Mm-hmm. I love it. So I was at that conference, the TIA one 2 years ago. So like it's been really fun to watch the trajectory of the Hawaiian shirts. And I do think, I mean, I spend so much time thinking about what to wear at a trade show, like how lovely that is that you're just like, hey, this is what we're wearing, and you just hand them the shirt.
So
like it takes that pressure off, which is great. And I do love, you mentioned now the Hawaiian shirt is like kind of taking on a world of its own. It's on your swag. I actually was looking and I see that you're hiring for a demand gen specialist right now, and you put on on your LinkedIn post, like this shirt could be yours, which I thought was so funny. I loved it so much. So how do you find that balance between fun and informative? And do people resonate to that? They're like, no, I want that shirt. Have people outside of Greenscreens tried to get a shirt? Like, is that becoming a trend?
For sure. Yeah. I think we always have people that, I want a Hawaiian, but yeah, we haven't printed enough of them yet. So it's something as we get our next batch of Hawaiians to consider that apparently people actually want them and want to wear them that aren't employees. So that's fantastic. So I guess we're really leaning into that. But I guess to your question on, balancing the fun and informative, I think that's kind of at the heart of what we try to do in our marketing, what we've really been focusing on. We try to keep our messaging simple. We have the taglines, no BS, just GS. But really like that it's a fun little saying, but it holds a lot of different meanings on really what we represent with our technology. What we do really, really well is our technology. And we take that really, really seriously. But that doesn't mean that we can't approach, the way we work and our team and, connecting with people in a more lighthearted, fun way. So I feel like that is really big for us, and just trying to keep things fun and light when our technology is ultimately pretty complex in that sense. But what we do is, technology, machine learning, AI, it's a very, in a sense, scary topic right now, right? But we try to make it easy to digest and for people to really understand. So I think that's a big part to it too. And, we have such a unique team that has direct industry experience. So I think too, I think coming back to the informative, like, we want to keep things lighthearted because that really is the freight industry, right? And I think there's no reason we need to be buttoned up all the time and serious. So yeah, I think it's been fun.
Yeah, I think it speaks to the team at Greenscreens too. Like you said, like you don't force anyone to wear the shirts or anything like that, but everyone does it. I've never seen anyone like eye rolling their way through a conference floor. Like everyone really buys into the vibe, which I think is great. And you can just tell that the culture there is collaborative and everybody like genuinely seems to like each other, which is great. So now we're in November, and so we're like in strategy and thinking through next year. So now that you kind of have this, being known for doing things outside of the box, how do you kind of up that for next year and as you continue to plan for future trade shows?
Right? Yeah, it's definitely like, oh, we have to keep one-upping it. So that's, no pressure there, but we certainly have some fun ideas in the hopper already. Some that I think you will like if you're looking for, something to take home to the kids. I think we definitely have that top of mind. But yeah, I guess like beyond the brand and fun swag ideas, just thinking about budget or budget planning and planning for next year. I think really we've done a great job at building the brand awareness and establishing ourselves as a company. People now know who we are, which is fantastic. So I think a big focus for marketing this next year is to really focus more on like educational pieces. And we've put out some new features, continuing to evolve our core platform, but also adding on some new products like Illuminate and Ignite. And really, I just want to focus on getting more content out there to educate, what are the difference, why you need it. So I think that will be a big focus for us, taking more of a targeted approach to on how we're connecting with prospects and customers. Um, but yeah, I think really just trying to continue to stay consistent, right? Like there's so much we want to do, and we're hiring a third person. So really, that's going to give us so much more power. We'll have 3 people on our marketing team, and that will really allow us to continue to stay consistent with what we're already doing and grow.
So with when you do add new products and things like that, so like I know as I used to work in software and adding new products and features for as a marketer, like I loved it, but I also like it would stress me out because they how you would receive that information wasn't all it would be like, oh, we need to run a campaign, we're like announcing this feature like tomorrow, and you're like, oh, okay. So any advice on kind of putting together the building blocks to make sure you have a good roadmap to announce the different products or different features? How do you educate while still trying to make it informative but fun? But like, how else do you kind of roll that out and make sure people understand what Greenscreens has to offer now versus what it could do a year ago?
Yeah, I think honestly, that's something we're kind of still working through, and something, especially with the features and product releases. I think we've gotten a lot better from when I first started doing it. But I think too, sometimes, right, you're announcing something, it's not ready. It's not like, customers aren't using it yet. And so from the marketing perspective, it's tough to market something that isn't live and in action. And obviously the dream scenario is to have customer testimonials that are saying how amazing it is. And then that's an easy sell, right? But sometimes that's not always the case. So that's where it comes into the education pieces, like trying to do, more centered, focused webinars, quick pieces of content too that are digestible, written pieces. And then, people do like the more technical long form pieces as well. So I think the ultimate goal will be to have something that resonates with everyone's learning style. And also too, learning how to test that, because I think that's something big. We have a lot of data now on the marketing side. So I really want to dive into what has worked, what's not working, and get super analytical in this next year so that we can optimize our strategies as we move forward.
I think there's so much greatness in what you just said. And the biggest thing for me is what you said, I want to make sure we're doing things for all learning styles. That's like if you hit a button for Jen to like stand on a soapbox and like go on tangents, it's a big one because I feel like when we're in school, we learn about how everyone learns differently. But like as adults, we just never talk about it anymore. And I don't understand why. Because we're still those people, but now we're stressed and have responsibilities. So if anything, we should care more about that.
Yeah.
So I do think that's really smart for all marketers to think through, like, how are we presenting this content? Is it in a way that anyone can receive it? How are people wanting to receive it? And then testing how that works. So I think that's all really smart. And then two, yes, sometimes, especially on the software side of things, you're talking about products that are coming. So people get excited and want to hear about them so that they'll implement it when it's ready. But that can be really hard as a marketer because you're like, but how? So one thing I used to do when I was in that seat, I'd be like, okay, give me like 5 things that this new feature solves? Like, how are we problem solving for our customers? And that really helped my product team think through that and why I'm asking them. Because like they know that, they know why they're building it because somebody asked for it. So they're doing it.
Right,
But well,
exactly.
like give me those like problem solution, like quick hits, because that helps with your marketing. So I think that those are things to think through too. And then of course, when you actually have the customer testimonials that can back up those things, it's really great. But yeah, I created like a form, like these are the things I need from you
Mhm,
if to do it properly, because I don't understand how to then relay that
mhm,
over. So yeah, it's always a work in process, but I think or work in progress. But I think the process you're creating, you also talked about creating processes even though you're a team of one. And I bet you now that you're a team of two and are going into being a team of three, you love that you did that. Because I can speak for myself here at TMSA, I definitely didn't. And now that we're a team of two, and we also have like our members and our committees that work, like we are really trying to put our processes down on paper because
yeah,
it's lived in my head. I worked by myself for a year and a half.
mhm.
So it just stayed in my head. And I was like, oh, now I have to tell other people what's up here. So I do think that's a really good piece of advice. And I'm glad that people are like, no, Celine, like just write it down for yourself. It'll be great. Because it was.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like when I first, I was encouraged to, get your processes in place, and I thought it was so silly, but yeah. And then once I started thinking about hiring the next person, I like as I was working on stuff, I'd be like, okay, now's a good time to go and jot this down real quick. Like, let me just put my steps in place because again, we're gonna continue to add and refine those processes, especially as we add more people. But having a baseline at least, right, of what's living in my head is helpful. It's a good place to start.
Yes, I think that's amazing. So we talked about kind of product launches, feature launches, trade shows. Are there any other areas of marketing that Green Screens really focuses on and is looking to dive into in 2025?
Yeah, I think I would say like definitely events is a big area that we allocate budget to, but for sure, sponsorships and podcasts and newsletters, we kind of call them the freight influencers in our space, right? But you have, the podcasters like Chris Jolly. We've been a sponsor of him now for probably a year and a half or, a little over a year, and then freight caviar as well. I think it'll be 2 years at the beginning of this next year. And so we supply our lane data 3 times a week to him, which has been just really great. I think we have what we do is really we do what we do really well at Greenscreens is data, right? And so I think getting that data in more places, for more people to see, will be a big play for us, and really just establishing ourselves as thought leaders and leveraging the data that we do have to show like what's happening in the market and things that we're seeing. So I think that will be a big focus for us for sure.
Awesome. Well, that takes us to my last question that I like to ask anyone who comes on the show. And that's if you could go back in time and advise a younger Celine anything, and it could be personally or professionally, when would you go back to and what would you tell her?
Yeah, I think this could apply personally or professionally, but I think growing up, I was always just afraid of my own shadow, and because of that, I didn't participate in things I wanted to do, and I really held myself back. And looking back at that, I wish I would just, could go back and say, "Girl, go do it." Stop being afraid of the world. And I think it took me a while to get there, but yeah, I think that's what I would tell my young self for sure.
I think that is a great thing to tell people. Get involved, get active.
Mhm.
And here at TMSA, there are a few ways you can actually get active and involved. If you want to get involved, you can scan the code up in the corner and you can join a TMSA committee if you're a member. And I will gladly talk to you about that if you're interested in that, anyone listening. But what I'm most excited to talk about is that we did open registration for our Elevate conference for 2025, which will be June 8th through 10th in Austin, Texas. So we are gearing up for a great show next year. Excited to see everyone. Celine got to come to her first Elevate this year, which was great. But thank you so much for being on the show and for telling us your story. It was great to hear.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. And I can't